Hey, Steve Riley, welcome to this episode of Great Practice, Great Life. Today is a special episode. Today is our 100th episode. So I thought, how could we make this episode special? And I had a conversation with my dear friend and boss, Valerie Peterson, the CEO of Atticus. And I was talking to her about some of the things that I've learned over doing 100 episodes. So today I invited her to come on so we could talk about the things that we've learned and I've learned to share with you as our listeners, members of our communities, the insights that we've gleaned over the past 100 episodes. So with that, Valerie, welcome to the episode.
Thank you, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm not taking it over like I did previously, or maybe I will. I guess we'll see, what we do and whether I really need to step in and, make things hot. I don't know. Remains.
I think it's a foregone conclusion. You officially have control of the wheel. I think I'm going to do it exactly how you want. I'm just saying, I've seen this show before.
All right. Well, Steve, I
So,
do congratulate you on the 100th episode. I know how much dedication, work, and time goes into every single episode. So this is no small achievement. Congratulations, sir.
thank you. Thank you. I greatly appreciate it. It's been a labor of love, but I'm not the only one that's really responsible for this. So while the podcast started for me as a gleam in my eye after reading Robert Rose's book, Killing Marketing, and meeting Robert, probably in 2017, 2018, we worked for a couple of years trying to get support for it internally. And then it probably wasn't until we pivoted the positioning of our firm from guiding a practice to great practice, great life, that the story of what the podcast was going to be about, what the center of the podcast, what our focus was going to be, got clarified. And then over a period of time, it took some work to get it launched, and it became more of a community event and so many people that involved in it. So while I appreciate the congratulations, there's a ton of people, and a few of which I'm going to do shout outs for in a minute, that have been incredibly involved. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to share 10 things that I've learned and share these with you, Valerie, and have a conversation with you. And I'm inviting the members to think about it from their perspective, because we've had 100 hours of conversations. Some have been longer for a lot of you. Some have been faster for a lot of you. But there's 100 hours of conversations that have occurred for those of you that regularly listen to the podcast. So it's really, really been a significant journey. And like you said, a wonderful milestone for us. So thank you. Valerie, is there anything that you want to say about that?
I'll thank everyone listening in advance for that. We really stand behind wanting every lawyer, every law firm owner, every team member, every loved one of our members to have a great practice and a great life, which is why we are constantly encouraging you. If it's meant something to you, please share it with someone else that you think it may resonate with.
The great thing about doing a podcast or a Great Practice, Great Life show is that we have an audience of perfectionists. And the one thing that I can promise you I get plenty of is feedback on how to be better as a host, how to invite better guests, how to do everything better. In fact, after being married for 31 years, I realized that I'm getting lots of feedback from a lot of different people, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. And sometimes it hurts your feelings. You're like, oh man, geez, I thought that was a good episode. So I really developed lesson number 2 as hearing criticism as coaching for growth. So I had to develop a way of taking any form of criticism and realize that people weren't criticizing me to hurt my feelings. They weren't criticizing us as a community, or criticizing all the people working behind the scenes. What they were doing was giving us feedback for how to be better. So I had to start flipping any form of feedback as criticism. No, excuse me. I had to listen to every form of feedback, not as criticism, but it's coaching for growth. Even in our relationship, Valerie, you've given me some very blunt feedback. And that blunt feedback, I have to first, say, "Ooh, God, that stung. That stung a little bit." And then take a step back and say, well, there's been, this is somebody who cares about me. This is someone who's committed to the same things that I'm committed to. What I need to do is listen to that criticism as coaching for growth and being better or making the podcast better. So I always kind of take it from the perspective that people that care about you, people that care about your mission, whether it's a client of your law firm, whether it's a team member in your law firm, whether it's the brand new person who's working in your law firm, if they give you some feedback. Sometimes, I know I've heard it as criticism and I get upset, but I really try and pay attention to, well, maybe they're just trying to help me. And what they see is something I don't see. Criticism is actually coaching for me to be better at what I'm trying to do in my great practice, my great life.
This is something I've learned through this journey and recognizing how much it takes, behind the scenes. And this, it wasn't necessarily in one of your lessons, but I think that I know that it's intertwined in everything you do and why you're able to see things the way you do. And this idea of gratitude. Because if you don't take time and give yourself space to be grateful and be specific about what you're grateful for, you would never recognize what you recognized with this lesson. And I know you take your gratitude practice very seriously. Would you care to just spend maybe a minute talking about that?
Y- Absolutely. Absolutely. So, um, good question, one that I did not anticipate. Uh, I have learned for myself personally that one of the most important habits that I can do to maintain a level of happiness in my own life is to do what I call the big fig gratitude practice, begin in gratitude, finish in gratitude. So, and there's studies that show that if you write, it has a far greater impact on your brain and on your emotions than if you think. So I like every morning to write 5 to 10 things that I'm grateful for in that morning. And in the evening, as I start to wrap up, whether it's in my Great Life Focuser or at home, I'll write somewhere between 5 to 10 things that I'm grateful for that day. Because usually the way I'm wired, and I don't think any of our members are wired this way, I go into the day with a complete expectation of the 50,000 things I'm going to do that day. And then I have to narrow it down to three most important things today. And this podcast is one of my three most important things today. But if I don't take a moment to appreciate my life, if I don't take a moment to appreciate what I did on that day, I can get consumed by the habit of looking at what I missed. So I'm trying to reverse the current. My practice is trying to reverse the current of being a somewhat overachiever who did not achieve everything I thought I should achieve that day. So the gratitude is a way of softening. And what I've discovered, this is interesting. So this is just my discovery. Other people can speak to what they've learned about this. But for me, when I practice gratitude, gratitude leads to happiness. And happiness, when you practice happiness, leads to joy. And when you're joyful, you annoy a lot of people who are not joyful. I've learned this as well. But it's a practice. So I don't think people are naturally happy. I don't think your brain, based on everything I've read, is designed to make you happy. It's designed to keep you alive. So happiness, joy, and gratitude for me are learned experiences. And the anchor to that is habit and practices that work over time. Now, that's just me. I have to work that way. Some people are just naturally wake up bubbly. Some people naturally wake up, joyful. Some people naturally wake up in a great space. I am not that creature. I wake up in a somewhat less than joyous mood. And so the gratitude practice shifts my mindset, shifts my attitude, and shifts my thinking.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, Steve, because we all go through different phases of life where we feel like, oh, I can't catch a break. And that's when we're focusing outside of ourselves on external things, doing things to us. And having a gratitude practice or a gratitude habit to fall back on can often help lift us out of that and stop feeling like things are happening to me, and being able to stop for a moment, think about all the wonderful things you have to be grateful in your life can often help push people past some of those feelings of, I just can't do this. The world is against me, whatever those negative feelings may be. So thank you. I know you weren't expecting that, but you handled it beautifully.